Hi, I'm Seraphim. Today I'm going to shed some light on what emotions really are and what purpose they serve in our lives. These are two concepts which are vital for any empowered empath to understand, and that's because our emotions, the relationship that we have with our emotions, is fundamentally the relationship that we have with ourselves. So my goal today is to help you to make peace with your emotional body and to use your emotions going forward in a way that enhances and improves your overall well-being and also your intuition. Welcome to the Empowered Empath. Everyone's heard of the sixth sense, which essentially is intuition or psychic ability. Now, I love this concept and I love that we call it the sixth sense because I very much believe that psychic phenomenon, ability, intuition in particular, is absolutely available to everyone, and it is a very natural sixth sense for us. But today I'm going to suggest that we actually look at emotions exactly the same way, as just another of the senses we use to interpret the world around us and our experience of this life. Our five senses are the means we use to perceive and understand the world around us. They give us information and help us make decisions about our preferences all the time. For example, I love chocolate. My taste buds, my sense of taste tells me that chocolate is a yes for me. And I don't have to think about it. It's a very clear signal from my taste buds to my brain. Your emotions as well are giving you information all the time and insight into your preferences. And if we can learn to start paying more attention to those emotions and paying more attention to that guidance, we can gain a great deal of insight. So our emotions don't just come out of nowhere. They arise in response to stimuli or input just like our other senses do. I once heard emotions described as being like our internal guidance system or our compass that helps us determine what we want to create more of versus what we want to create less of in our lives. And I love this. I'm going to come back to this a little bit later on. But essentially, we sometimes get confused about what our emotions are telling us because just like our other senses, sometimes our preferences may be different than someone else's. So to give a quick example of what this might look like, we'll take taste again. I detest coconut desserts. Most people love coconut desserts. They think they're just fabulous. For real, keep your coconut out of my chocolate. I don't doubt that I don't like coconut just because many other people do. I trust my sense of taste and texture. Like, I don't care for the texture, so my sense of taste and touch, I trust that. I don't enjoy that. And so, I don't feel like I have to change my preference and eat coconut to make other people happy. I don't try to conform or fit into any kind of a box because I have a different taste preference than the vast majority. Our emotions, we tend to get confused though. Sometimes we can do just that. Nobody else seems to feel this way. Maybe I'm just crazy. We devalue or invalidate our emotions and try to push them down, ignore them, and suppress them. And this is where we get into trouble because they really are our guidance system. Emotions aren't really so different than our physical five senses. You know that you don't like a flavor because your body tells you that you don't like a flavor. But emotions are really no different. Your body's going to tell you when you don't like an emotion. When you're embarrassed, do your cheeks get flushed? Do your ears get hot? I know my ears get hot and turn red, and then I'm super embarrassed about the fact that my ears are probably glowing off the side of my head. Or when you're heartbroken, you feel that hole in your chest or the heaviness or the pressure. You feel that in your chest though. Emotions typically do have a physical charge to them as well. We just, again, tend to ignore or suppress them because our emotions are not a physical sense. They're a sense that we receive in the emotional body instead of the physical body. So when we ask, what are emotions? Emotions are one of your senses that you can use to perceive and interpret the world around you and make decisions about your preferences. So they are one of your senses. They're the sense that belongs to your emotional body. The purpose that they serve. What is the purpose of emotions? I said I was going to give you both of these concepts. The purpose, as I've said before, is to act as your guide. Your emotions are the stars by which you sail and steer your ship. They are your compass and your guide that help you make decisions about the experiences and the people that are either adding value to your life or taking value away. It is vital that you regard your emotions as your friends, not as an enemy. They are messengers of your spirit and should be regarded as having valuable and important information to share with you. I want to say here, for those of you who have numbed yourself out to your emotions or have a habit of suppressing or ignoring or invalidating your emotions, it may be somewhat uncomfortable when you start turning your awareness towards them. And it also might be somewhat confusing to really determine what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. When you have turned away from your emotions, sometimes you can sort of lose touch with that aspect of self. And so in a sense, you're coming to know yourself again. You're getting to know this aspect of yourself that you had really left behind. So I mentioned before that this is going to improve your intuition. It is definitely going to help you trust your gut more, trust yourself, because your emotional body, as you bring yourself into alignment with your emotional body, you're going to gain a great deal of confidence. You're also going to have a much better understanding of what is emotion versus what is intuition, because when you're used to tuning into that emotion and paying attention to what those emotions are, you're only going to get better at interpreting them. So the other piece of this is I want to encourage you, if at first it seems really confusing and you're not even sure where these emotions are coming from or why you're feeling this way, stick with it. Just observe yourself. Observe yourself in situations. Observe when you're triggered and try to find out exactly what those triggers may be. That's usually a good place to start when you're just coming to know this aspect of yourself again. So if we've identified that we're feeling emotions that are unpleasant and we recognize that we obviously need to make a change somewhere, the gray area lay in what exactly to do. How do you choose how to respond? The change that needs to happen is either going to be to your external world or to your internal world. And what I mean is an external change may look like making changes to the people, expectations, obligations, or situations that are in your life. An internal change has to do with shifting your perspective. And I always say that your perspective is your most powerful point of influence, because when your perspective shifts, the life path potentials associated with that perspective shift with it, for better or worse. So how do you determine if the change that needs to happen is an internal one or an external one? One way to determine if the change that needs to be made is an internal or external one is to look at whether or not you're in control of the circumstances. There are going to be circumstances in your life that are beyond your control, and most of those have to do with other people. What they think, what they feel, the choices they make. Free will is sacred, and so all of that is completely outside of your control. Also, let's say you're going for a particular job and you've gone to the job interview and you just really, want to get that job desperately, but they make a decision and you're not the candidate that they selected. That's completely outside of your control. You have to find approval for what's happened. Otherwise, you're going to torture yourself over the fact that you didn't get this job that you were so excited for. Very obviously, you can't make any effective changes to make that person give you the job. But what you can do is shift your perspective around it. If that job wasn't offered to you, that job wasn't meant for you, that job wasn't aligned with you. So staying open to the possibility and open to the universal abundance and trust that the universe is going to bring you a position that is more in alignment with what it is that you're looking for or what is in your highest and best good. Sometimes we think we know what we need or we think we know what we want, and so we become very blind to the blessings that the universe is trying to give us because they're not coming in the packages that we were expecting to see them in. I think it's also important to mention that honoring your emotions and making your decisions based on your emotional guidance system isn't about ejecting people from your life because you can't control what they think or feel. These conflicts are important. They can help us grow closer together and actually create more intimacy in our lives. They can also help us to make changes within us that we need to make and challenge us in ways that we need to be challenged. This is how we grow. So very often it is the relationships that are most important to us that motivate us to make the changes to our perspective that we need to make. So, I'm going to give you a very personal story to illustrate what I mean. I noticed a few years ago that in all my relationships, there was this pattern where I always felt like there wasn't enough intimacy or there wasn't enough connection. And I always blamed my partners. I always just blamed them and figured it was their fault. I mean, I'm super affectionate. I'm always expressing my love and affection. So it couldn't possibly be me. Well, upon closer inspection, I had to recognize that I wasn't going to be able to make any changes to my partner, but I really loved my partner and I didn't want to leave this person because, things weren't perfect or maybe he wasn't expressing the way that I wanted him to express. So I really had to do some self-reflection, and in that self-reflection, I realized that I was actually the common denominator in all those relationships. I was the thing they all had in common, and so I had to ask myself if maybe I was actually the problem. So I started doing this meditation, and I just keeping an open mind, and the meditation was designed to heal and open the heart chakra, and immediately I recognized there's a problem here, that yes, my heart chakra is actually a lot more closed and hurt than I had realized. So through doing this meditation, it took about a week and a half. That was it. I did the meditation every day, to be fair, but a week and a half later, this meditation had completely evolved. The visualization and the sensations that I received through this meditation had completely changed and really opened me up. And lo and behold, my outer world started to reflect what was going on with my inner worlds. So now I was more open to receive love, and all the love that I had been blocking started pouring in. And it was wonderful. All of a sudden, my partner seemed like he had completely changed, but he hadn't changed at all. What had changed was me and my perspective. And that is, I think, a brilliant example of how our perspective, when we shift our perspective, it's incredibly powerful and can really shift our whole experience of the things that are going on in our life. Had I just ejected that person from my life and moved on to the next, that karmic lesson would have followed me into the next relationship and I would have encountered the same issues. So in this sense, my emotions were pointing me to what needed to change. I was just really stubborn for a long time and didn't realize exactly what needed to change until I started looking at myself. So these situations are always very gray, so it's difficult to give you an exact formula for how to make these decisions. But tuning back into your emotional body is going to help develop your intuition so you can trust your gut. And also ask yourself the question, am I in control of these circumstances or not? Because that is the key to whether or not the change that needs to be made is internal or external. And sometimes you're going to have a choice to either make the change to the people, circumstances, situations, or expectations in your life versus making the change to your perspective. You're actually going to have to make the decision as to which. So just be really honest with yourself and make sure that you do as much self-reflection as you can in making that determination and making that decision. Our emotions tell us pretty clearly whether we do or don't like something. They help us determine our emotional preferences around the people and experiences in our lives. They're meant to be our guide. They're meant to be our compass. So use your emotions as your allies and recognize that they're trying to point you in the direction of your highest and best good and of your joy. And it's not always so cut and dry. It's not always black and white. Emotions are absolutely a gray area. But your emotions are pointing you to the changes that you need to make in your life, be those internal or external. And don't discount those internal changes, because when you make an internal shift, it's going to be reflected in your external world. So you are going to see changes in the external world, regardless of which option you choose, regardless of if you make the external or internal change. You're going to see it reflected in the world around you. And that is just the magic of manifestation. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and share it with your friends. Also, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. If you'd like to learn more about my practice or book a tarot or eye gazing session with me, you can visit www.tarotbyseraphim.ca and to join the Empowered Empath Facebook group. You want to visit Tarot by Seraphim on Facebook, but I will link to all that in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next week. Blessings.